Okay, we're back after some technical difficulties. And it was perfectly timed because we were between March and presentations. I'm streaming for the Women's March.
Guess what?
Just left a minute ago.
I'm sorry?
I'm streaming for the Women's March. Thanks. And my Shire daughter might come back in about 10 minutes. Okay. Sorry, can I sneak?
Renee Quaid. I know a lot of you might know my wife, but I just want to point out that I am the power half of the power couple. This is true. This is true. We're so excited to have you all here today. Some people might say it's a little bit cold outside, but we are some hardy Minnesotans. I'm not really noticing too bad. It is a wonderful day outside. Sun's out. Resistance out. The sun is out. Like, it's a great day to be outside. I agree. Before we start anything right now, as we're gathered here, we want to start by acknowledging that we gather on stolen land. We gather on land of Dakota and Anishinaabe people whose stories are past, they are present, they are future. They serve as stewards of this land through generations and going forward. So 2 years ago, I sewed my sister's now Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, now Lieutenant Governor Payne Flanagan, and Senator Tracy Torres Ray. We carried that banner down that road, and we marched then as we do today, as a declaration of our commitment to our safety, our health of our communities, our equity, and our rights. In the last 2 years, we've done a lot of work. We have organized, we have rallied time and time again, we have marched, we have sat it down and sat in, we've walked out, and most importantly, I would say, we have voted. And I think there's some folks out there that some of us have even ran for office. So in fact, if you ran for office in the last 2 years, or if you plan on running for office in the next couple of cycles that we have coming up, I want you to raise your hand, or I want you to jump up and down if you're able. Make it known that you are part of this movement. Yes, look at all these women, yes! And if you are a federal worker being held hostage by this shutdown, not getting paid, I want to see your hand. I want to see you because we want to thank you for your work. Yes, because the federal workers right there. I know we have some back there. Thank you. We are standing with you. Thank you. So, we're celebrating all of us who stepped up to lead. We are celebrating all of us who are leading within our communities. But we want to introduce a woman, an activist, a social justice warrior, a trauma survivor. Please welcome Women's March Board Member Janessa Marquette.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for being here today. I really want to give a special shout out to the protest pup that I saw in the first row. So, I really love dogs. They're better than men. Okay, so I wrote a speech. Let me find it. I promised my mom I would be on my best behavior today. So my speech is nice, and there's no swear words. And with that, the person with the greatest impact on my life has always been my mother. From birth, I had identities placed on me. Some were forced, some I really held on to. Foster child, transracial adoptee, biracial, Latina, indigenous, spick, wetback, worthless. Sorry, I'm like overcome with emotion seeing everybody here. My mother, she was so gentle and patient, and she really poured into me empathy and compassion, which in turn made me brave, resilient, and strong. It impacted my life so much that when I first heard the term intersectional feminism, I immediately connected to it. I invested in it, I lived and I breathed in it, and it made me question the intersections of my own identities, both claimed and unclaimed, my privileges and my oppressions. connection, self-reflection, or growth. And even in experiencing racism, sexism, and misogyny in my own life. I have made mistakes, I have disappointed allies, and because of intersectional feminism, I can look back and I can say, I was wrong, I'll do better, and I'll take on the emotional labor. As I stand here today, I see the change, the growth, and the desire. I see white folks taking on emotional labor, doing the work that they are not asked to do, and doing it without question. I see understanding also that they are guests within our spaces. As a woman of color, I am proud to serve on the board of directors of Women's March Minnesota because it has allowed me to take up as much space as I want without question. Without compassion, without empathy, without intersectional feminism, I never would have been able to see the mistakes that I have made. And Women's March Minnesota is dedicated to expanding growth, knowledge, and understanding. We ascribe to feminism for all, feminism without borders, without specifications. We are all made of the light, the sky, the sun, and the earth, and we all belong. I again want to thank you so much for being here, for being out in the cold, and just, I'm overwhelmed with pride for my state today. Thank you so much, everybody.
Give it up for Janessa. All right. Minnesotans, are you excited? Are you here? We have next for you a speech from another board member of Women's March Minnesota. Alicia Donahue is one of the co-founders. She's currently serving as the vice chair. She's lived, worked, loved, played, and thrived here in the state of Minnesota. She went to the U of M, where she got both her bachelor's and her master's. And she's dedicated her career to advocating for those whose voices have been silenced and to protecting the rights of individuals with disabilities. When she's not fighting for women's equality, she's a therapist for individuals currently incarcerated. Please give it up for Alicia Donahue. Minnesota! Look at all of you out here in the cold. So despite being forecasted as one of the coldest marches out of all the sister marches, you all showed up. And you look amazing. But do you know what that tells me? That tells me that we are unstoppable. So when I say we are, you say unstoppable. We are unstoppable. We are unstoppable. We are unstoppable. You're amazing. So as you can imagine, pulling off an event like this is no small feat. There are many who deserve our deepest gratitude. But one of the most instrumental are those who saw our vision for today and invested in it. Education Minnesota is our visionary sponsor. Investing in building a stronger community is at the heart of what they do. Education Minnesota is the leading advocate for public education here in our state. They represent 80,000 members who work in pre-K through 12th grade and higher education institutions statewide. Education Minnesota works tirelessly to give a voice to the issues that affect educators and their students. And without their support, today our voice wouldn't be as strong. So from all of us on the board of directors and volunteers at Women's March Minnesota, we thank you, Education Minnesota. So now I want to get serious with you for just a minute. We're all here because we're concerned about the direction our country is headed, right? And we're here because we want to build a stronger Minnesota, right? The only way to do that is together. A few months ago, I was at a rally, and a speaker said something that really resonated with me. It was in reference to oppressive systems. They said that there isn't anything in place today that wasn't built and intended to be this way. So that means that the system of oppression has intentionally and strategically pitted communities against each other because they know how powerful we would be if we were all in solidarity. About relationships that leaders of our national chapter have. Women's March Minnesota is anti-Semitism, for example, is not an issue of the past.
Right.
Anti-Semitism is alive and growing.
Yeah.
We saw it here in Minnesota this week at Minnetonka High School. We want to be clear that we, Women's March Minnesota, do not and will not tolerate the language or practice of hate.
Yes.
We are charting a new course into what 2019 looks like for Women's March Minnesota, what our future looks like, and as an intersectional organization, we want our community to come together to work out what that looks like as an act of solidarity and strength. And we hope that you'll continue to join us on this path. So let me shift gears here and talk about something that 95% of Minnesotans believe in, and that's that everyone should have equal rights. We are so excited to share on behalf of ERA Minnesota that for the first time in decades, the Minnesota House will hold hearings on the Equal Rights Amendment. And they're holding those hearings on Thursday. At the state office building. So yes, that's this coming Thursday. So the bill is going to provide gender equality under the law and proposes a constitutional amendment that, if passed in both bodies of the Minnesota legislature, would be added to the ballot in 2020. So in case there's one or two of us that are still wondering why we need an amendment in the Constitution, let me just quote M. Kathleen Murphy, the Vice President of ERA Minnesota and founder of the Minnesota Cafe Coalition. She describes it best. She said that pay inequality, gender discrimination in the workplace, gender violence including domestic violence, and sexual assault, and primarily gender fairness in our court system are the main reasons why the state ERA is still necessary. So who's ready for equal rights to be written into the Minnesota Constitution? Perfect. So all of you should submit your stories to eramn.org. They're needing to hear some of your stories so they can share it at the hearing on Thursday. You're amazing. So also, I want to make sure that you know how to stay in touch with us as we continue down this path. So, text resistor 22828. I'm running on a little sleep here. Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to the future of our Minnesota. Haley Dickinson is a high school sophomore from North St. Paul. She is fierce. She started her work in activism after the Parkland shooting last February. She's on the state leadership team of Students Demand Action Minnesota and is on the National Women's March Youth Empowered Committee. She is currently working to start her own organization to get a more inclusive sex ed program here in Minnesota. Give it up for Haley. Hey everyone! My name is Haley Dickinson. I'm 15 and I'm a sophomore from North St. Paul High School. I am so honored to be on the stage with so many other amazing leaders. I got started my activism after the shooting at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas last February. It reminded me of the absolutely horrifying reality that we live in, and it made me realize that we have accepted it for far too long. I was super eager to get involved. I went to occasional events, a couple of marches, and learned about some local organizations in the process. However, I had bigger plans. I wanted to change the world. I wanted to pass legislation where it counted, and I wanted to start working with others who had the same goal. But I didn't see a lot of opportunities coming up, especially for people my age. I searched for months, but I still wasn't seeing anything that really stood out to me as something that I could stick with long term. I started thinking about other options. That's when I decided that I had to do something for myself. I had to make my own opportunity. I did some research and began working on starting a local chapter of a national organization. I contacted two of my peers and the idea really took off. I was so excited to start putting plans into action when the school year started. But school is what ended up getting in the way, and the group got pushed to the back corner. Fast forward 1 month to October of last year. By this time, I was much more involved in the activism circle, working with multiple organizations. However, something was still missing. My other two peers and I had come back together to plan a walkout following Kavanaugh's confirmation to speak out against sexual assault to demand consent education. I was absolutely shocked to see how many students had come out during the Friday school day all the way to the Capitol. Everyone was angry, but the students were absolutely furious. There was a different kind of fire that I saw that day. It reignited my passion and gave me an even deeper purpose. Our original ideas had evolved into a completely new concept, but our thoughts still weren't coming together. About a month later, we officially decided not to continue working on the group. At this point, nearly half a year had gone by since my first decision to do this, and I felt hopeless. But something that I heard that day stuck. Even though they had decided not to continue with me, one of my fellow organizers had asked me, "Are you still going to do the group?" That felt impossible. I shrugged it off and moved on. I had tried and failed, and it just wasn't meant to be. But that sentence kept coming back to me. Why couldn't I do this on my own? About a month later, I decided somewhat spontaneously that I was going to start my own organization. The possibilities were endless, and there was absolutely nothing holding me back. As my ideas developed, my confidence and drive began to return. I could see my vision becoming a reality, and my passion for it was and is stronger than ever. There comes a point when you have to stop waiting. Stop waiting for others to speak out about the world's injustices. Stop waiting for others to rally against the evil. Stop waiting for others to start a movement. Your greatest successes will come when you start making opportunities for yourself. When you stop doubting yourself and start believing in yourself. When you stop following and start leading. Will all of your ideas work out? No. If you're an accountant, I went through 3 completely different concepts for the organization that I'm currently working on. And who knows, maybe this idea won't work out either. But you have to keep going. I promise you that your passion will come through. So don't be afraid to make your own opportunities. Execute your ideas and start taking action. Be brave and be bold because your voice deserves to be heard. We are the students, we are the activists, we are the change makers, and we are the future. It is up to us to fight for our rights and quite literally to fight for our lives. So keep your work ethic, keep your drive, and most importantly, keep your passion, and you will go far. Thank you. Okay. I see all these amazing people in front of me, but I do not want to forget about the amazing people behind me on the stairs of the Capitol. And I have a wonderment. At least, do I often think about wonderments? I do. I always am thinking of things. I'm wondering, are the people behind me louder than the people in front of me? And I want to find out. People in the back chair! People in the front chair! Front chair! I can't tell. I don't know. I can't tell. Elise? I don't know.
It's a tie.
Like us. We're a tie. Okay.
All right, so we're gonna do a chant. I'm gonna say Black Lives. You're gonna say Matter. Ready? Black Lives. Matter. Black Lives. Matter. Black Lives. Matter. Black Lives. Matter. Whose house?
Whose house? Our house. Whose house?
Our house.
Whose house?
Our house.
Whose house?
Our house.
All right.
Hey. All right, so I want to introduce our next speaker. She is a Bath River, Wisconsin tribal elder, a grandmother, an educator, and a teacher. She's an advocate and community organizer for trafficking, missing, and murdered Indigenous women. She is the founder of Native Lives Matter and Native Lives Matter Coalition. She has been working in multiple coalitions for the past 5 years, bringing awareness to the ongoing epidemic of MMIW in the Twin Cities and Twin Ports area. So I want to introduce our next speaker is Renee Ann Goodrich.
Bonjour, Nendwe Magnetu. Shabate, Eliaji, Ingo, Ojibwe Mowen. Mushkizibing Nendunjiba. Renan Goodrich, Jaganashimang. My name is Renan Goodrich. I'm so honored and proud to be here. And I wanted to say, Miigwech, thank you for supporting and also for our inclusion. We are here today with staff carriers, grandmothers, mothers, sisters, aunties, Ojibwe, Dakota sisters, powerful activists that are out here working, awesome advocates, providing direct support to families of lost loved ones. We're here to bring you this conversation of missing and murdered Indigenous women. Looking at many of your signs, you know, they're powerful. We've been out, my group has been here to St. Paul for, the past 5 years. And we started Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women's March at the American Indian Center in 2015 to bring awareness to this silent epidemic. And we're silent today. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done. Through the years, families of lost loved ones, grieving families, communities have marched and held multiple rallies for decades to bring awareness to this ongoing epidemic. This is not a new epidemic, and it's not slowing down either. I would say the first missing and murdered Indigenous women was in 1492. So this is ongoing. It's not just localized on isolated reservations. It occurs in cities, in the rural areas. It occurs everywhere where there is Indigenous women. So this is not an Indigenous problem. This is a global problem. This is a human problem. And we're here to rally support for some new legislation that needs to happen. And we're asking our allies to include this conversation into all the work that you do. This conversation is not an isolated conversation that doesn't pertain. This is a human issue. So, you know, think about the women in the work that you do every day. Underneath the umbrella of missing and murdered Indigenous women are multiple issues that contribute to it. Trafficking. Trafficking is a global. It's a 150 billion industry globally. And Wisconsin is within the first top 50, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, my whole town, is in the top 50 highest rating of cases for trafficking. And I think Minnesota's a little further down, but not that far down on the first top 100 cities in the United States. And then we have the Duluth Twin Ports area. So we're here, I'm reading your signs and they're awesome. And we're here to rally support for our sisters, your Indigenous sisters. We care, today I'm carrying my daughter's feathers with me. For myself, as a family member, I've lost 3 of my sisters, and I've lost my daughter last year. So we are out here. Families are out here. Please support the families of lost loved ones, because families are the frontline leaders of this missing and murdered Indigenous women's movement. So thank you for your support. Most importantly, what currently is happening right now, because for decades activists and family members have been working, struggling through the system, systemic racism within the system, to bring justice and visibility to the injustice. So we can make it happen here in 2019, and that's why we're reaching out to all of our allies, is to include this conversation into all the work that you do. and to support this new legislation that is coming down. Legislation started last year, 2018, but of course, you know, things get stalled and political games are played, and then it's pushed to the end of the year and we have a change of the guard. Well, that's enough, you know. This is the year that we can make it happen. We've got the women's wave, and we can do it. This is the year. I wanted to ask our representative to please share some legislation, some new legislation that's going to need our support and demand that we push that through. Reading some of your signs. Together, we fight for all. Okay? There we go. Vote. Your vote makes a difference. Yes, it does. We've got the women in the House is the women wave. So 2019 is the year that we're going to be able, we will not accept no for an answer. We'll be able to push this legislation through for the missing, for the murder, for our Indigenous relatives, for our lost loved ones. This is a human issue, and we need everyone on board. Miigwech.
Good afternoon, Minnesota. I'm State Representative Mary Kunesh-Podding. Welcome to this beautiful day. Beautiful day. I'm glad you're out here. So as my auntie said, we tried to pass legislation last year to create a task force to study the missing and murdered Indigenous women in Minnesota. And while we had incredible bipartisan support, we weren't able to get it done. Well, we brought it back this year, and we're moving it right along. In fact, on the 29th will be the first hearing to introduce the bill to again create this task force that will study the historic barriers and reasons to look at ways that we can collect accurate data, because that's one of our biggest problems, and also to find ways to end the continual historic trauma of violence, missing women, murdered women across the state, across the country. And it's not just our Indigenous women, though they seem to be the ones that are more invisible, but it's all of our sisters. It's all in our communities, it's across the nation, across this continent. So I would ask for your support as we go forward with our missing and murdered Indigenous push. Talk to your legislators, let them know that you support House File 70, and let's wrap our arms around our Indigenous communities and support and tell them that they are no longer invisible. Thank you.
Compassion
Yep. All right, so our next speaker is a Korean adoptee that's defeating the stereotypes as a young, single mother by finishing her bachelor's degree, working, and parenting her daughter. She marches for her daughter, our future generation, and anyone who's been oppressed or held back because of stereotypes, stigmas, racism, and discrimination from society. Because she strongly believes that everyone deserves to be accepted for who they are and that it shouldn't matter who you are or where you come from. If you have goals, you can reach them without holding anything back. So, I want to introduce our next speaker. She's Allie Thomas. She's a student at Hamline University. This is really cool. So, Allie, we often hear the saying, like, don't judge a book by its cover. And as Graham was saying that it is fall in life, there's still a lot of pressure from society to judge. If you don't go to college, you're considered uneducated. If you're a single mom, you're either pitied or shamed. And if you're raped, being believed depends on what you are wearing and who you're drinking. When we let these stigmas and stereotypes fill our minds, we can lose sight of what's really important in life. I've been told by some of my classmates in my writing class that they would have never guessed that I was the person I was about 4 to 6 years ago because they see me as a normal college student, even though I'm considered really old for being 24 and a class of 19-year-olds. One of my papers is about my past. My past as being the girl who used partying and alcohol to fix her depression. The girl who was ashamed of being labeled as having a mental illness and refused to get help because I wanted to be seen as normal. The girl who was raped and didn't report it because I was told I was asking for it because, I was drinking beforehand. And the girl who went to college, who was a college dropout and had no intentions of going back. And then finally, the girl who was knocked up at 20. The reason people never guessed that I was the person I was years ago is because when I was pregnant, I was told that my child was going to ruin my life and that I would be nothing but a bad statistic to society, and I wanted to prove them wrong. Not only was my daughter my second chance at life, but as an adoptee, she is the first person I know that shares my DNA and looks like me. So that made her extra special. So she's very special to me, and she was the reason why I was so determined to turn my life around. As a new mom, it scared me to raise her in a world that is so corrupt and full of hate. But what made things less scary was finding my voice at my first Women's March and making it a point to raise her to be a strong and independent woman. It's our job as parents and as a community to help raise our children and their future generations to not let judgments from society hold them back.
This song.
My past has made me the strong person that I am today, but if I could go back in time and change something, I wish I worried less about being judged and had felt more comfortable, to listen to what I really needed. We should raise our children to know that things like race, gender, sexuality, or where they come from should never hold them back from fulfilling their goals and dreams. We should also raise them to be kind and accepting of those who are different, because being different is beautiful and that should be embraced. And we should raise them to judge less and to love more. I was able to break the stigmas and the stereotypes as a college dropout and young single mom by getting myself back into school, going from a .56 GPA to a 3.85 GPA. I became a Hamline University student, going into a career in law enforcement as a woman, even though it is seen as a male-dominated field. And being a strong role model for my daughter and not being a bad statistic. If there's one thing that I would hope for you to take away from me today, it would be the desire to teach our children to embrace the diverse people around them, both in and outside of our country, so that we can shape our children into the positive change we want to see for our future. Thank you.
Okay, I have a favorite, and it goes with what I'm going to say. So,
Well, let me look around. So, first off, over here.
you can't spell truth without Ruth.
Grappled by the patriarchy.
Oh, girls just want to have fundamental rights. Alright, I want to introduce our next speaker. I was fangirling back there because our next speaker is an immigration attorney, owner of her own law office, hosts an Immigration Nation podcast. She's made 4 trips to family detention centers along the southern border to represent detained families seeking asylum. And in December, she went to Tijuana to represent asylum seekers from the caravan. During that trip, she was part of an 18-hour standoff with U.S. Customs and Border Protection who were refusing to process asylum seekers, including the family, from the viral, devastating, and heartbreaking photo that we saw of tear-gassed children. She was named the 2015 National Advocate of the Year by the Immigrant Law Center of Minnesota, the 2015 Attorney of the Year by Minnesota Lawyer, and in 2017 she won the Special Recognition Award from the Advocates for Human Rights for her work on the MSP Airport Rapid Response Team in the aftermath of the Trump Muslim ban. She is a vocal opponent of the Trump administration's misleading and hateful rhetoric about immigrants, which I hope we all are. And I want to tell you, if you want to see what is happening, hear the stories, and see the people that are being affected at the border, you should follow her on Twitter. So you need to give it up for Carolina, our next speaker.
That was an introduction. Thank you. So thank you so much for having me today. It's such an honor to be here with so many who are standing up for what they believe, even in the face of rising anti-Semitism and anti-immigrant rhetoric. This past December, I went to Tijuana to represent asylum seekers. I saw the U.S. government violating our laws with my own eyes. I saw young mothers with small children watching, hopefully, as numbers were called off the illegal list to see if they would be allowed to ask for asylum. Currently, asylum seekers are being turned away from the border and told to put themselves on an illegal list. Normally, they could go to any point along the border to ask for asylum, no wait necessary. But with the current illegal system, it takes months just to have the chance to even ask for asylum. While in Tijuana, 2 members of Congress and several attorneys, including myself, accompanied 20 asylum seekers from Central America onto U.S. soil as a port of entry to ask for asylum. This included the mother and children who were tear-gassed by border officials from the viral photo taken over Thanksgiving weekend. These asylum seekers were being targeted in Tijuana. They could have been tortured or killed, and they could not wait. Border Protection lied to the members of Congress, saying they could not process these asylum seekers. So we waited, and we waited. We waited for 18 hours until all of them were processed. During that time, that's very nice, thank you. During that time, Border Protection forced a 3-year-old to sleep on a sidewalk on U.S. soil, denied a 5-year-old access to a bathroom, and we had to make a makeshift toilet for her. They called in Mexican authorities to stand on the Mexican side of the border, ensuring that any asylum seeker who even briefly stepped off the small patch of U.S. soil that we were on would be immediately arrested. They harassed and tried to intimidate our group all night. They marched in formation and riot gear with their dogs next to us. They put fencing around us, confining more than 20 people into 150 square feet of sidewalk space. It was so cold we could see our breath. These asylum seekers needed to remain anonymous for their own safety, but Border Protection and Mexican officials loudly demanded their names and took their pictures despite being told not to. All of this was done to prevent people from going through a completely legal process. But these asylum seekers were the bravest people I've met. CBP eventually processed them, but only because the asylum seekers outlasted them. And if this is what happens when members of Congress and attorneys and the media are there to witness these violations, it's truly terrifying to think what happens when we're not all there. 2 teenagers from Honduras were murdered in Tijuana while waiting to ask for asylum in the U.S. And despite closing the 10th city built in Texas to detain children, our government is adding detention beds in Florida. And the administration is currently trying to hold children and families in indefinite detention while they seek asylum. We're lucky to have so many groups in Minnesota working on these issues. Many of them are sponsors of today's events, and many of them are immigrant-led and led by women of color. Seek out these groups to donate your time and money. And you need to call Congress. Our federal immigration agencies, particularly CBP, need to be held accountable. Congress needs to be asking questions, and they need to know what's important to you. So before I end, I want to share one more story from the border. In our group was a 17-year-old girl. She looked much younger. Moments before we left for the border, she quietly raised her hand and told us that she did not have a sponsor or a place to live in the United States. She was from Honduras and had made the journey north by herself. She couldn't get in touch with her family, and she was entirely alone. We talked with her and explained that she would be detained longer than the other kids because she had nowhere to go. She decided to go to the border and ask for asylum anyway. After waiting for hours on that sidewalk, when she was finally allowed to present herself for asylum, she gave us a hug and thanked us. We watched her bravely walk up to the border station by herself. And just like that, she was alone again. To this day, she remains in custody. She's a 17-year-old girl, alone, asking for asylum. So call Congress for children like her, and call Congress for asylum seekers like her. Thank you.
I'm so excited. You're amazing. At KARALYNUM. Follow her on Twitter. I'm being serious. Thank you, Kara. I have a bit of housekeeping. Martha Anderson, you lovely woman, you lost your license, and we have it up here for you. So come get it if you'd like, otherwise we'll mail it to you.
Alright, so I want to introduce our next speaker. Actually, I want to take 1 second to recognize we are probably the coldest women's march going on today.
Yeah, like there was one in Antarctica 2 years ago, and it actually might be colder here. I don't know, it's global warming, right?
We win, essentially, is what's going on. So thank you all. Thank you. I want to introduce our next speaker. She is the founder of Village Arms. It's a Christ-centered nonprofit organization dedicated to aiding and assisting African-American youth and families impacted by child protection. Village Arms focuses on family preservation and reunification through parenting education, in-home visits, resource acquisition, and advocacy with a cultural base. So I want to introduce our next speaker, Khalees Houston.
Hi, so yes, my name is Khalees Houston, founder of Village Arms, and I'm also chair of the NAACP's Child Protection Committee. And I'm really happy to be following the woman that's working to address the crisis at the border, because what I want to share is that we have the same crisis here in Minnesota. African American youth are being removed from their homes at an alarming rate, and a large number are crossing over from child protection into the juvenile justice system. I want to also add here that this isn't just a black problem. There's a category of children identified as 2 or more races. That would include children with a black and a white parent. So white women raising black and brown babies, you're impacted by this issue as well. We don't need more allies, we need accomplices. And what I'm calling and asking for today is that everyone reach out to their representative and their senator and ask them, urge them to sign on in support of the African American Family Preservation Act. Thank you. And again, this act would work to protect all children of African descent. The child protection reform that began under Governor Dayton's task force really worked to exact. We'll have to take a stand against this issue. We're reaching out to the community and the public at large to ask that they apply the pressure to their officials to start to take this issue seriously. I began on the reform, and I won't be before you long because I'm cold and I didn't know we were going to be outside. But I began my reform after spending about 5 years at Hennepin County Central Intake Shelter. And this is the first stop for children just removed from their parents. It was there that I noticed more often than not, 100% of the youth on the emergency placement unit were African American youth. When they were with us, they were there for much longer periods of time than their Caucasian peers, and a lot of them were back with us 3 and 4 times a year before aging out of the system without permanency, meaning no foster home, no adoptive home, and no reunification with their biological parents. African American children are also the highest population moving from child protection into the juvenile justice system. So the school to pipeline prison persists, but there's also a foster care to prison pipeline. And across all races, the likelihood of a child involved at any given time in foster care of being homeless as an adult or involved in the criminal justice system increases. What we need to do, because we hear a lot that we just don't have the funds to support families. We absolutely have the funds to support families. But we have to repurpose existing funds. We have to repurpose what we value and what we say is our values as a Minnesota state, as the state of Minnesota, excuse me. Thank you. And while Minnesota is among the worst, this is a long-standing national issue. So at some point, we'll be taking this to the feds as well. But let's start here. Let's start in Minnesota. Let's do something. Let's do something innovative and meaningful here and become a model for other states. I see the Black Lives Matter sign. If Black lives truly matter, we have to work to protect the most vulnerable amongst us, and those are our children. So again, I'm asking for accomplices to help us fight and apply pressure to the state to engage our families differently. Contact your elected officials, specifically those in outstate Minnesota that have a better reach than those of us from urban communities. Urge your officials to sign on in support of the African American Family Preservation Act. You can follow the legislation online. Senator Hayden and Representative Moran are the authors. And we're going to keep pushing until something changes here. Thank you.
Oh, you will notice I'm up here alone because my wife deserted me to go to the bathroom. She's going to find out I said that later when she comes back. I want to welcome our next speaker. Our next speaker is bringing all the inner Shirley Chisholm. She's dragging up her own folding chair. She She is the Vice President of the Minneapolis NAACP. She's a native Minnesotan, and she is a member of the St. Paul Police Civilian and Internal Affairs Review Commission. She's the lead organizer of Minnesota Restore the Vote Coalition. She has diversified and humanized the movement for voting rights. Please welcome Anika Bui.
Minnesota Women's March, are you feeling nasty? Well, it is such an honor to be here today. I, as Vice President of Minneapolis NAACP, it feels good to cross the river and be back home in my great city of St. Paul. And when I look out and see the wonderful, brilliant women in this march, I know that there's no march that's colder than a movement of women who's fired up and ready to go. The NAACP marches with you because we believe Black women are not allies, but partners in our collective freedom, equality, and opportunity. Our organization has a strong legacy of Black and white women working together for the betterment of Black lives. And in the Honorable NAACP's founding mother, Ida B. Wells, shout out to Ida B. Wells, she did not play. She was a nasty woman. She says, the way to right wrongs is to turn the light of truth upon them. At a young age, I grew up sitting on the front porch with my great-grandmother, singing my favorite church song, This Little Light of Mine. We would sing so loud for the entire Rondo neighborhood to hear two off-pitch Black women singing, This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. And she would tell me stories about the importance of education and standing up for what's right. Her voice full of pain, painted with promise, and her eyes beaming with hope for a future for her great-granddaughter to be her shining light. And with a heart of conviction, she would say, sunshine, it's one thing to have a light. It's another to let it shine. Percy Mae Jones raised generations of Black women with a light of truth to right our society's wrongs. So Women's March, let's speak truth and not politics. Today, the light of truth is shining on our North Star state. A state that welcomed enslaved Africans fleeing America's racial discrimination to enter Minnesota's nice version of institutionalized racism. A state that welcomed immigrants across the globe seeking the American dream with the fear of being deported by ICE. A state that welcomed a rainbow movement that taught this country that love always wins. But lost the sight of Black trans lives matter too. A state that planted its flag on sacred Native land and through indigenous bodies, we have to remember.
That's right.
A state that gives people second chances but locks them in a second-class status. And that's why we say hashtag Restore the Vote Minnesota. So I ask all of you Minnesota, but all Minnesota. The Minneapolis NAACP dares you to shine your light of truth on what's right. And let's be clear, women's rights are civil rights. Women's rights are human rights. And women's rights, and what's right for women is right for everyone. And if you are wise enough, you know that women always are right. And I conclude with this. Change doesn't come by masses. Change comes by the people who dare to challenge power. My sisters in intersectionality, I leave you with the words of the great Shirley Chisholm. We came too far to be danced backwards in what others consider to be our place. It's time to claim our place and shine our light. It's time to be the world's North Star to equality, equity, and opportunity for all. It's time to stand on the shoulders of women who claim their place in Congress, at the Capitol, in the boardrooms, in Senate, and in our Minnesota's classrooms, and anywhere and everywhere that we decide to let our light shine. So, Women's March Minnesota, let it shine. Let it shine today. Let it shine tomorrow. And let it shine forever. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, she's great. You know, we have a bunch of marchers and cheers on his paper, but one of the suggestions was the song This Little Light of Mine. And I feel like we can't lose this moment with the great words to not sing that song. Who's going to sing with me? I have literally never sang in front of this many people in my life. All right. Let's just do it. This little light of mine, I love